Hi, this is Nam.
And it's Cathy.
And what are we doing today, Cathy?
We are doing a walkthrough of the next letter of my animal alphabet, E. E is for...
ELK, elk. So how did you end up choosing an elk for E?
It wasn't that hard of a decision. The first E animal that people think of, I assume, is elephant. And I painted a ton of those, so I thought, why not deviate from the basic E animal and try something else. And I thought elk was a good example because I haven't painted deer in a while, and everyone knows elk is a type of deer, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to paint that again.
So are you trying to get hipster with your animal choices?
Yeah, that's another reason. So one of my stockists in Portland said that deer has been a trending animal in art and illustrations. I think something about the antlers or the symmetry of the deer's face makes it a really sellable product. So I just wanted to paint a better version of the deer that I painted. I think it was almost a year ago. So yeah, that's how I came up with elk. And I found a photo. I usually go through Pinterest, Flickr, sometimes Google Images for photo references. In this case, I found two photo references. One of the elk in this current composition is kind of facing about 20 degrees towards us, so it's not a complete side profile view. And I found another picture of an elk of close-up of the face, so I can capture the eyes well.
And then as you're painting the body here, how did you decide to use that turquoise color and that bright orange color?
For this one, I did some color experiments in that mixer palette on the right. And I wanted to stick to a earthy, neutral tone color palette, but I also wanted to add a little bit of whimsy. And with a lot of my other work, I always add a hint of an unexpected color or a color that doesn't make sense on an animal just to establish my own style. In this case, I thought turquoise worked well. It's not something that I put a lot of thought into. I usually on the whim during my color experiment, try a couple of different colors till it looks good. I don't try to match it to a certain color code or anything. It's all pretty loosey-goosey, intuitive.
But you're still using, even with your accent color, you're still using some method of color theory, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't follow color theory strictly. I mean, it's probably not a good idea to use I don't know. I mean, I try to stay on the warmer side, I guess. So even the turquoise has still got a little bit of warmth to it. I think I added a little bit of yellow or burnt sienna. So yeah, I do follow it, but I'm not a trained, I didn't go to art school. Anything I picked up from color theory is from what I read about or just from experience. So if it aesthetically makes sense to me, I just go with it. I'm sure the next art school graduate would tear my theory or my quote unquote art theory apart, but for now I don't really care.
So you're starting on the antlers here. So what was your approach for the antlers?
I did a pencil sketch at first. You can't really see it here. They're really, really light. All my pencil sketches are pretty light and rough just to compose, just to make up the composition. But I wanted to show some 3D effect. I mean, antlers are 3D, of course. So using watercolor shading, I try to create this three-dimensional effect to show that there's two antlers. There's, depending on how the light is hitting the antler, it's lighter on top and darker on the bottom. Just like the elk's body, there's a light striking the back of the elk, and under the neck area and the legs, that's where there's shadow. So I do try to portray 3D composition a bit.
And then, so before you start a painting, do you try to figure out where the light where your light source will be from so you can do the shading?
Yeah, not always, but in most of the cases I do. And it's probably something I should do every time. But I just look at the photo references and see where I kind of, in my head, try to imagine the photo in black and white. Sometimes for beginners, you can even just Photoshop the photo into black and white to see where the picture is lighter versus darker, and that's how you can determine where the light hits the subject. So in this case, since the deer is facing us slightly, the light looks like it's coming from top right. It's hitting the top of the antlers as well as the back of the deer, the elk, I mean.
That might be a good idea for a future episode where we actually show how you get the source or inspiration of your image. And
yeah, we should show a photo reference next time. It's hard to picture, and a lot of times the photo reference looks very different from my final product because just purely by the colors I use, and I remove the background a lot of times, and I also tend to Frankenstein different pictures to create my own composition.
So in the top of the corner of the film, then there's these 3 individual rectangle paints. Mm-hmm. Are those different? How are those different from your paint palette?
My paint palette in this white organizer looking thing is they're all from paint tubes, and the 3 paint grids are from another kit by Furotake. I tend to, in this case, I picked out the 3 that I was likely going to use in mixing my color, just so that they're within reach. The rest of the kit is on the top right. You can kind of see it from the corner, but I just want to keep them within reach. That was really the only reason. And it looks better in video to have, those 3 little pods. There, it makes it look a little more artistic.
Yeah, we're all about show here. All show, no go.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this point, you're about to start on the eye, right?
Yep, eyes always go last for me. I mean, I've painted a lot of eyes by now that I would say I don't mess up eyes anymore. Just sometimes they don't turn out as good as I want them to, and it's harder to correct because they're darker, and it's a little harder to erase a darker watercolor that's not diluted by water. Water can you can actually erase some watercolor if it's wet enough and you have paper towel, but for eyes, since I use a smaller brush and there's a higher concentration of paint, once I apply it, it's pretty hard to remove it completely. But if I over apply and then I thought like, oh crap, I messed up or the eye is not in the right place, then I could remove it right away. But it takes some immediate recognition to course correct the eye, which I think is another reason that it's the hardest thing to do.
And it seems like you're putting on the final touches right now, right?
Yeah, so once the rest of the body have dried, when watercolor paint dries, it gets lighter. So what I did just now was I went over the legs again to apply another layer of brown.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think the next episode will be F is for Flamingo.
We're not supposed to tell people. They're not going to come back.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a cliffhanger.
Okay, I won't tell them next time. And
okay.
Then,
well, now I have to repaint the F to something else to keep the suspense.
Actually, this is one of my favorite pieces that you did.
Thanks.
I think I like it even more than the cheetah.
Was cheetah your favorite before this?
Yeah, it was my favorite. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.